welcoming you to this live with City Me. Kelly and I just did a training for camp for the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, and we got the recording over the weekend. And so I was looking at it this week, and we were talking about how in that training, how business building is one of the biggest like self-development journeys that you can go on, and how the blocks that we have in our personal lives will show up in different ways in our business life, and how often we don't realize that's what's happening. And so it's really frustrating. And what's really cool though is that when we address our blocks that come up in our business that are at their core personal or family of origin issues, it doesn't just impact our business, it impacts our personal. Sometimes we think that the only way that we can like progress is through therapy and through like personal development that we think of as purely personal development. But a lot of times what we do in these other areas, sometimes it's an easier entry point through the business. And then we get to feel it in our personal lives too, which is like super rad.
Yes, it is awesome.
So I'm Miranda here from Zinimi, one of your private practice experts and coaches. And I have the amazing Becca here, a brain spotting and business block expert. And we're just going to be talking about business blocks today and ways to resolve them, how they show up, what your options are. So if you have a particular business block and you want to share it in the comments, we would love to dig in. Like, what is your business block, y'all? Like, what is the thing that is getting in the way? Is it money? Is it boundary setting? Is it self-confidence? Is it imposter syndrome? What are some other ones that come up a lot, Becca?
Not feeling worthy of rest or ease. Money stuff comes up all the time. There are people-pleasing things that show up in terms of like, I don't feel like I can do what I really want to do because other people will be disappointed in me, or that's not what my family wants to do. Or maybe that's not what my colleagues think that I should be doing. And so I have this stuff where I maybe don't feel permission that I'm allowed to just do what works best for me.
It's so funny too. I inhaled something right as we press go live, so it's going to be fun here. It's funny to me how these things will like sneak up too. Like I was talking with someone where they were coming to us and talking about, hey, I'm struggling with marketing this new online course that I have, and it's feeling very like overwhelming and feeling like it's a lot of pressure. But I really need this online course to go well because I'm working too much in my private practice. And so we started diving in and realized, oh, really part of the online course was them trying to avoid their money stuff, that they weren't actually charging what they needed to charge in their primary service. And they were trying to get around it by doing an online course to fill in the gap, as opposed to going, oh, actually, I'm really not charging a sufficient fee. This course is great. It's a good idea. It's beautiful. But I still don't have enough time to actually launch this course because I'm overworked already.
Right. I know for me, when I first signed up with business school, the first couple of rounds, I stalled out every time at the module that's about finances. And it took me a couple of times to realize that like, oh, I never complete because I always shut down at this one area. And that was a real kind of eye opener for me at how much money stuff I personally had to work through. And these were things that I was it wasn't even on my radar. I didn't know how much, but clearly there was this thing showing up right in front of me over and over again. You shut down on this topic. Oh, okay. So there's a place where I get to really dig in and figure out what are the things that are holding me back? What are these beliefs about myself or about abundance and earning and ease that I am replaying in the way that I'm running my business?
Yeah. And for a lot of people, they realize like it ties right back into a family of origin issue.
Often.
Yeah. And that has been true for me. I know that's been true for you and for most of our other people. And I think that's why it becomes this like, oh, that's just too complicated. Oh, I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good with Excel. I'm not good with this. But really, it's back into this place of, oh, this is an old story where money wasn't talked about. Like in my family, money was just not talked about. It was not okay to talk about money. It wasn't okay to talk about taxes. Even to the point that like my mom didn't file her taxes for years. It was always that somebody else was just going to like come in and save you with money, that like you would get married to have somebody else take care of your thing, or like a family member would come in and take care of the money stuff. It was never the like, oh, hey, let me like own what I'm doing. Let me own my process and my practice and my business. And my mom was like, she was a small business owner. She did crafts. She had a craft store. She would go in and have these little sections. But I definitely saw all the ways these business blocks showed up in that way. And it was very easy for me to replicate, and just go, oh, I'm charging, I think, what was my first fee? It was like $110 a session, pulled out of my butt. Like there was no rhyme or reason to it. And then if you paid at the time of session, you would get a $20 discount, because, so that I didn't have to like chase you for the thing. So they would, if they paid me $90 right then, that was all I needed. So that I wouldn't have to bill anybody. It was hilarious. So funny.
Yeah. Somebody that I've been working with recently has some family of origin stuff around there not being enough. And this person is really figuring out what it looks like to enjoy that their practice is very successful, and they have a whole lot in savings, and that they could enjoy that. It's our work together has been a lot about giving permission to enjoy, and also getting in touch with some of those younger parts that need to be reassured that like she's got it. It's okay.
Yeah.
That cycle's not going to repeat because of how competent they are.
And I think this is the part that's so fascinating too, is that there is this like this set point of thinking, oh, I'm just going to put more money in the savings, and at a certain point, I'll feel comfortable. When it gets to 10,000, when it gets to 50, when it gets to 100, when it gets to 500, I've talked to people with just incredible amounts of cash sitting that really weren't even doing anything. Like it wasn't even a good like financial plan for them. They wouldn't talk to their financial advisor about it. Like there was all of these pieces that like really were not working for them, but it gave them this sense of internal security, but it was also blocking their room for abundance. It was blocking their options and their freedom. And so to be able to kind of explore that, especially as a business owner, right? Because when you're working for someone else, you can just be like, oh, these nonprofits, these agencies, they don't pay me enough and I can't believe it. And I can make it about them devaluing me. But when I'm the one setting the fee and the expenses and the take home and the savings and the retirement, I'm setting all of that, then it really becomes like, oh, well, who do I have to blame? Right? Then I can blame insurance companies. I can blame the government for like self-employment taxes. I could blame, I could try to blame some other people, but ultimately it's like, well, then why am I taking these insurance contracts? Why did I sign them? Right. Why didn't I integrate in the self-employment taxes that like are known and make sure I'm charging something to cover it? Like, oh, that does come back to me not owning and honoring myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I was raised with the financial strategy of we'll just hope it all works out. It's like, we're just going to do this, maybe because it's what we want to do or because it's what it seems like is right. But we're just going to hope that somehow it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
And it was like when I became aware that that was the strategy I was using, I had to take some real honest, like sit down talks with myself to figure out, okay, so what is a strategy that I want to use though? Because I can see that as my business grows and there's like increased risk. And if I'm really going to say that like, this is my income and how I'm going to be supporting myself, I don't feel comfortable with somehow it'll just all work out. Let's just hope it all works out.
Yeah. And I think,
I was just going to say it's been transformative to see how those things show up for me, to see how I can learn to trust myself. And not just that I know all the right things, but that if I don't know something, I can actually ask for help. I can do some vetting and find the right professional person who's going to give me good guidance. And I have been grateful for taking those steps for years and years and years. Like, I'm so glad I actually sat down with a financial planner and let someone who knows teach me how to do it.
Yeah. We don't have to know it all, especially when we were not raised in that space, right? Many of us were, I definitely was not raised. I was in a low SES, socioeconomic status or what have you. And so there was no talks of retirement. And I still watch my mom, struggle with that idea of, oh, I don't really have, like, she still doesn't have a plan. She's in her 60s. There's no plan. And she's just kind of like hoping for the best, that things are going to be okay, and they're probably not going to be super great, right? And it's sad, and she gets to make those decisions, and she gets to make those choices, and I can offer support, and she can take it or not, right? As part of that process. I think this is the piece too for us as business owners, that when we think about this, often we think these business blocks only impact us. Like, oh, I'm only hurting myself. But I think it really shows up in the clinical work way more than we want to admit. And that's the thing that we feel the most shame about, is realizing this impacts my clients. What are some ways you've seen these business blocks show up for clinicians or for employees that you've had in your group practice, or for yourself?
One of the first things that comes to mind is charging for cancellations and no-shows according to whatever your policy is that you have set up. And I think there's a part that shows up there that has to do with our value, the value of our services, and really owning what we bring to people, which isn't just about, I need my money. Mm-hmm. It's also about holding our clients accountable for the change that they said they wanted to see. And so what does it look like when we talk to them on the phone and we tell them, yes, this therapy is going to be great, we're going to help you. And then we hit a road bump and they play out some story and they start canceling or no-showing their appointments all the time. And we don't address that with them. We just go, oh, well, it's okay. Oh, well, that's fine. And I think there can be real power in us sitting down and talking with our clients in an honest way about what these connections are that we see. I've noticed this pattern that we do really hard things, or we make a plan that next session we're going to talk about something really hard that's at the core of the issues that you have, and then you no-show that session. What's happening there? And when there's no financial accountability for it, we're communicating that this is okay, or maybe it doesn't actually really matter.
It does.
And I think that there's a relational piece there too, in terms of us being able to speak to our clients and hold a boundary with them in a way that honors us so that we can keep showing up for them.
Yeah.
And when we don't do that, we're teaching them that this is an okay way to have a relationship, where you just I say what the boundary is, and then you cross it, and then I don't really do anything. And maybe I'm just quietly resentful of you.
Right?
We are playing that out in this relationship between the therapist and the client that's supposed to be really healthy and healing.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like? And what messages are we sending to our clients when we just say, I guess this is fine?
Yes. There's so much replication that we are showing up, even out into let's say you do go to set the boundary and the client has a strong reaction to it, and then you kind of cower down. What are the odds that they're having that strong reaction out in the world when people try to set boundaries? That place of you being able to stand the space in a loving way without necessarily getting, activated, for you to be like, oh, okay, this is, how often does this come up? What does this look like when other boundaries are crossed? These are things you initialed when we did the paperwork. I know it's frustrating. I totally get it. And really noticing the way that we're interacting, this could be really hard. Does this show up in your marriage? I know you're a couples expert and primarily do couples therapy. How does this show up between the two of you when a boundary is crossed and somebody, sets the consequence that was already in place beforehand.
Right. And then we see the other person have the big reaction, and then we can look with them at like, what normally happens in your relationships when you do that, when you get big in this way, when you get loud in this way.
Yeah.
And it pushes people away. And I think I've seen this other thing show up where clients will sometimes feel shame about having let you down, and then they don't come back. And there again, we miss opportunities to help our clients and to provide healing for them when we don't address those things. Hey, I know that this happened, and I noticed that you're having this response, and like, I'm still here for you. We can repair this. Let's talk about what that looks like.
Yeah.
And none of that is possible if we aren't able to, if we are playing out our own stuff with our clients and not able to hold boundaries or give feedback in a firm way, or like, firm but loving, or any of the other things that might show up.
I think the other part too that I see a lot is when we don't hold a framework for therapy and the way that works for us. So let's say, like for me in particular, when I looked at my outcomes, and if I was to see 2 people 12 times, and one person I saw them once or twice a month for those 12 sessions, and the other person I saw 12 times in a row, I could see that the person I saw 12 times in a row was getting a completely different therapy experience and a completely different outcome than the person that was coming once or twice a month. Now, both of these people are going to say, oh, I went to therapy for 12 sessions. Maybe this person's going to say, I went to therapy for 3 months. This person's going to say, I went to therapy for 7 months, and it really didn't do a lot. This person's going to say, I went to 3 months, and it was like transformative, right? It doesn't matter that both of these people only did 12 sessions. It doesn't matter that this person was really like haphazard and in and out and didn't get any like consistency or continuity. And if I don't hold the frame for that, then in terms of like my marketing, in terms of other people believing therapy works, in terms of this person ever going back to therapy again and thinking therapy actually works. But really what happened was I had a block of like holding this person accountable and saying, here's how therapy works with me. Now, if you're someone who can like see people once a month and get amazing outcomes, freaking fantastic. You do you, boo. Like put it on your website and say, I do amazing. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to come only once a month. We're going to work together for 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. We're going to do 1 intensive a month. You're going to have this amount of homework during the week. And then we're going to whatever. Or you're like a one and done therapist. I mean, you do you. If you get great outcomes, fantastic. Me, I'm a little neurodivergent. I'm a little bit out of sight, out of mind. This is a terrible thing to admit, right? I have shame about that. If you were out of sight for 3 weeks, I have to like bring you up in my mind in a significant way. But if I'm having this ongoing relationship with you, then like I'm like all in. I've got all the details I can pull out. People are like, how do you remember the name of my great Aunt Sally and the fact that like this, and you put these ties together? I'm like, because that's what I do. Like, this is awesome. But if you see me once a month, then I'm having to work really hard to help make those connections. And I'm working really hard to be like fully engaged and present with you. And it also means that I have a much bigger caseload, because if I have 15 sessions, so if I have 15 slots a week and I'm seeing these people weekly, that's 15 people, period. If I'm seeing these people twice a month, then I have 30 people to engage and connect. If I'm seeing them once a month, I have 60 people that are on my caseload for reschedules, for cancellations, for crisis, for all the rest of it. And I think we really ignore the reality of all of that in what we do in private practice.
Yeah.
So what is your number one favorite thing to do for business blocks, Becca? Like, what's your favorite strategy for people diving into them and resolving them?
My preferred way to help people with that is with brain spotting. It's the best. If you're not familiar with brain spotting, it's a brain body based therapy that is essentially a form of very focused mindfulness.
Mm.
We have these things that are stored in our brain and our body that might be getting in our way. Sometimes they are too painful for us really to be able to face, or it's too dangerous for the subconscious to let us be conscious of. And brain spotting allows this very supported and gentle way for us to look at those things that are too hard to bear, or for us to look at those things that we have just too much shame around. And
Mm.
we can do it in this super supported way where then you can like get the clarity. You have another person who's like sitting there with you and like carefully tracking you. I'm able to give people some prompts to like decrease their activation if it gets to a point where like, this is too much. It's like, okay, we can like step it back to a place where it feels safe and comfortable so that you can look at those things and the rest of your brain and body can help you figure it out. The idea is that like it's within you. We just have to create the right supportive environment that you can figure out that thing that's getting in your way and what the correct fix is.
I think of it, and this is going to sound weird on the surface of it, but I think often we think of like band-aids or even surgeries, that these are the things that like fix and heal you. And like really, we're just providing protection so that your body can heal itself, right? Even the threads, like we're putting threads together, but it's not always the thread. It's that the threads keep it together so that your body can knit, the veins back together, what have you. Like it's within our bodies. And so that space of creating the dynamic where your body has what it needs to do what it was meant to do. Because realistically, I can cut my arm today. I'm not going to. I cut my arm today, and like without any like external things getting in and dirtying it up, like it's just going to heal. Like how magic is that? Right? And there's so many things that impact us, that we just heal from, but the things we notice are the things that overwhelm our system or that are so messy and dirty, right? That need a lot of cleaning out. Those are the things where we're like, look at me, I'm stuck, I could never heal. And it's like, no, you can. We just need some assistance. Like this was a big one. We need to hold that wound closed, so we don't create too much of a scar. I think one of my favorite things when it comes to healing business blocks is this connection between knowledge and community, of how can we pull in, here's some knowledge, here's some how-tos, but like here's some community so that I can start to like unpack this idea of like of what it really means. I come in, or people come into our business school all the time with all these views of like what this looks like. And like Khalil is an EMDR therapist. They're getting ready to start a cash pay practice. They're over listening to us on YouTube right now. Hey there, good to know. And they need to know how to market. And so there can be a place of maybe I have some business blocks around marketing, like being seen. Maybe when I was a kid, like I had to be really quiet. Maybe in my culture, it's not okay to be boastful. And so maybe I have some real blocks around that need to be explored. But also there's some like logistical things too, of like, I just legitimately do not know how to do this. Like, I just don't know how. And so when we can kind of start to put together like, oh, here's some how, and then I can notice, all right, I have the how. Oh, yeah, this is a little easier, but oh, there's still a block there. Now I can tease out what's the how to versus what's the old stuff. I can work on the old stuff and then I can move into action when I do that. And I think that that's really, really powerful to have all of those things in one place. And I think that's why people in business school rave about it, is because they're like, oh my gosh. And because we literally dive into the thoughts and feelings and the old family of origin stuff. And we have meditations for people to listen to as they're going through that, because we know that it's not just the how-to. But when you have this place and you get stuck and then you say, oh my gosh, I'm stuck. And then somebody said, I was there too. It's going to be okay. I've got you. I'm sending you a virtual hug. Or maybe they're in your town, so you go and have coffee and you have real hugs, whatever that looks like. It's really magical. So in talking about just like a little piece of like a business block for marketing, one of the biggest things that I see come up over and over time is that we look to other therapists' websites to teach us how to market. And we just try, wow, that looks really cool. Let me just replicate what I see. I need this perfect formula that sounds really professional and makes me seem like I know all the answers. When in reality, what we need to do is really connect in with our clients the same way we do in an individual session. And we need to find what the client's languaging is. We need to be able to listen intently, and we need to speak using their language. And so that's what we teach in business school. That's what we teach. We have free trainings at zennime.com/free. You can go and check them out that kind of give you a starting point for that. But there's a lot to marketing a practice, because you can have a great marketing message, but like if it's not on the first page of Google, and if you don't know like what people are searching for, like you can be like, my marketing message is, I thought it was awesome, but nobody does that. And then we look at your website, we're like, your website got 10 views last month. Like that's not going to do it. Versus like, we're going to teach you all of the pieces of, here's how to have a great message. Now here's how to get on your website. Here's how to get your website to the first page of Google for the things that your ideal clients are searching for. And then here's how to do the phone call and all the rest of it, right? I do want to put just a little teensy plug at this moment for business school, because we are open and we're closing out the fall cohort on Thursday. And business school is everything that you need to grow, to start from scratch, or to up level a solo or group practice. It's really fun. It's really connecting. It's amazing to watch people, whether you're building a 6-figure cash pay practice or a 7-figure group practice or something in between. Like these are the things that we do over and over again. And we do it in a way that's really holistic, that's all about you having a better life and more connected relationships and working through these blocks and these other family of origin issues along the way, which is kind of cool. And it's a write-off for your business. So like, how freaking cool is that? And Becca actually does brain spotting sessions for our business schoolers if they need it. So we have some optional ways to work with Becca, and she's super rad. And watching how that changes and shifts people is pretty freaking magical. So I'll go ahead and put the information in the chat. But if you're looking for it, again, you're looking for something and you're not sure what that might be, now's definitely the time to check it out. No pressure. It's just that it closes on Thursday, because we're going to have an intensive working session starting October 10th. Is that right? I think it's October 10th. Starting October 10th, where we're going to deep dive. So as you're working on your marketing, your website, your marketing message, me, Kelly, Becca, and all the coaches and the whole Zennime team will be looking at your website, giving you tweaks, making customized videos for you, doing whatever's needed, which is really awesome. We will have a cohort in the spring. The days of our live calls are on Fridays, are the live calls. And then we have some optional morning calls Monday through Thursday during the week that are early in the morning. And if you go and check out the information, everything is there for you. You can see everything on our calendar. It's all public. There's nothing hidden there. We even have, if you want to do a 15-minute call with our team, there's no pressure about it. They'll just answer all your logistical questions. If you're like, there's so much information and I can't find what I need. And yes, spring is absolutely an option, but spring is also 6 months from now. And if you're starting a private practice that you want to hit the ground running in December or January or February, starting next March or April is not super helpful. And while lots of people do business school after they've already been established for a long time, all of them say, I wish I had done this from the beginning. Even like Gary Brown has a cash pay private practice in Los Angeles, super successful before he ever got to us. And he'd already been doing it for like 30, 35 years at the point that he joined business school. And he's like, oh my gosh, I needed this 30 years ago. Like, why did no one tell me? I've been figuring it out along the way. And then he felt really reinvigorated. And he says they're just going to wheel him out of the session. He's just going to die in a session, which it's kind of funny, but it's also totally Gary that, you know, at a certain point, you're like, all right, my therapist is 90. Like, this is happening. Everything that we do is recorded. Like, everything is recorded. There's no kind of issues with that. If you cannot come, you can submit questions in advance. And also know that, like, we have office hours from 8 to 5. Monday through Friday. And these office hours, you're posting questions as you have them, and we're giving you personalized responses. Often they are videos, like whatever the best way is to answer your question. So it's not something where you're waiting until Friday to like dig into a question. Friday's just the kind of the cool time where we all get on a Zoom and we see each other's faces as we're asking questions. But all during the week, you can make a video and ask me a question and say, hey, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what's happening on my website. You're pointing at something going, how do I get that freaking thing to move? And then I will go into the back end of your website. If you use our template, which is a bonus this round, which is super rad, you get like a website template, like ready to go. So you can just put in your words and your picture and like launch it. Like, how freaking cool is that? That's super rad.
It's really cool.
It's super cool. And so because if you use our template, I already have access to it. So I can literally just look it up, go into the back end, and I can move it for you and show you how to do it. So not only am I doing some stuff with you where I'm doing it for you, but I'm showing you how to do it. So in the future, if you need to make that change at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. or at some other time, you are now empowered with how to do that, right? We know that this program is made to have this wonderful mix of together time where you really feel like, oh, I'm connected with the community. But also we know that most people, they've got at least one, if not 2 or 3 or 4 jobs when they start with us. You've got clients scheduled. You've got to kind of figure out what life looks like, because what we're taught in grad school and what we're taught in practicum and agency placements is to be overworked, to have really poor boundaries, and to not have any time and space for anything. So yeah, great questions, Kali. I appreciate it. And tell me at some point if I'm saying your name totally wrong. I would super appreciate being able to say your name properly, which would be lovely. All right. Well, check out Business School if that's something that you need. You want some support. Again, we have separate tracks, whether you're started from scratch, whether you're trying to get full with a wait list, whether you are already successful and you're trying to figure out like what's next. Am I going to write a book? Am I going to do a course? Like what's happening? Am I going to go into group practice? Or if you're group practice, we have completely different tracks for you and all kinds of cool things. So yay. You know what? I hope that the copywriting course was really awesome for you, the website, but do you have the SEO, the search engine optimization? Because having your website done, but if you don't have a plan to get to the first page of Google, will not be as impactful. So that's just something to be thinking about as to what's next. All right. Well, until next time, you all. I just talked over Becca for like 5 minutes. Sorry about that, Becca.
That's okay. You are super passionate about business school and know how to speak about it. I will just say, echo what Miranda said. I started business school before I started my practice, and there were so many times in those, as I was setting things up, that I thought, oh, I'm glad that I know this now. I'm glad that I know this now. I'm glad I'm not having to go back and like redo stuff that I didn't know how to do. So totally worth it. And that initial investment has paid for itself multiple
like so many times, like
so
oh my goodness times. Yeah, I think for most people, like even the idea that you would invest and like make an extra $10,000 in the first year, like that would be pretty minimal. For most people, it's pretty significant time after time, like what they would have charged versus what they actually charged, how soon they raise their rates, how they do in their expansion, what that looks like in terms of profitability. It has a really big compounding effect. And if you think about that, even if on average this just changed your profit by $15,000 a year over 10 years, that's $150,000, y'all, for a $2,000 investment. And that's that $150,000. That's your savings account. That's your retirement. That's all the things that people often don't have in private practice. So, oh, I'm so glad they taught you about SEO in the class. That's rad. I hope you know exactly what your key phrase is, that it is a key phrase, that it's location specific, and that you know how many people are searching for that per month. Because if you do not know those things, that is not as impactful. So those are things that are really important. All right. Until next time, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, 6 to 9 months for Google to recognize your website. You don't. Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be 6 to 9 months for you to get impact from your website. Just throwing it out there. If you're being really intentional about how you do your marketing, and everybody's different. If you're in Los Angeles, it could actually take a year or two, right? Or in San Francisco sometimes, of really specific work to get to the first page of Google. But if you're in other cities with targeted work in terms of blogging and some other pieces, you could be on the first page of Google within like 3 to 6 months, easily, more like 3. So there are some things. So I wouldn't just take the like 6 to 9 months for them to recognize your website. They can actually recognize your website within like 30 days at most. It's a question of you getting the first page of Google, and you should have a plan of what you're doing on a weekly basis to get there. Okay, sorry, I'm going to stop. Bye, y'all.